Entering a BR0THEL in Pompeii, shocking truth about ancient revelations at midnight. Midnight hung like a heavy fog over ancient Pompeii, shrouding the streets in whispers and shadows. The air crackled with a tantalizing blend of mystery and danger as curious souls dared to tread where few had ventured. Beneath the surface of this long-buried city lay secrets so deliciously scandalous, their mere presence sent jolts of electricity through the bones of those daring enough to seek them out. Few knew that behind the crumbling walls of an ancient brothel, truths lurked that could rewrite the very fabric of history. Legend had it, if you stood by the doorway at the witching hour, you'd feel the weight of unfulfilled desires swirling around you. Each brick whispered forgotten tales of passion, whispered sins, and the desperate cries of lost lovers. Striking murals painted on the walls depicted tantalizing scenes, bursting with vibrant colors that contrasted sharply with the decay around them. Here, the air was infused with both excitement and dread, as if the ghosts of every encounter lingered, ready to share their confessions. Flickering lamplight illuminated the carvings that were etched into the stone, each one a plea, a promise, a memory from centuries past, but what truly sent chills racing down the spines of those who dared peek inside was a chilling legend that the spirits of the apparitions within could come alive at midnight. Were they guardians of erotic mysteries, or would they bring forth something far more sinister? The stories lingered heavily in the air like a fog, stirring anxiety and intrigue as minds raced to grasp the depths of what might lie within. Anyone brave enough to cross the threshold was faced with an undeniable question: would this adventure uncover forgotten desires, or awaken something far darker? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The ambience shifted as the clock struck 12. It wasn't just a mere hour, it was a portal into the unknown. A sharp intake of breath pierced the stillness of the night as a hooded figure emerged from the darkness. The air thickened, wrapping around the body like an ominous cloak. Was it a ghost? Or perhaps the very spirit of the brothel itself, sent to unveil long-buried secrets? An electrifying tension that felt almost tangible filled the air, buzzing like a live wire. With every step, the figure drew closer, casting an inscrutable gaze. Eyes flickering like mischievous flames, they seemed to hold the weight of centuries. What were they searching for? What truth did they carry? A shiver coursed through the witnesses, creating a hush that stole away breath. The night felt alive, and the curiosity of those who were drawn into this ancient enigma surged like wild beasts ready to charge. What would happen next? Whose secrets lay waiting to be unveiled in the darkness? The truth lingered just out of reach, thick with anticipation. The figure paused just outside the threshold, the dim light flickering around them like a candle dancing in the wind. A low murmur rippled through the gathered crowd. Faces paled, and the air thickened with palpable anxiety. What had they awakened? The anticipation simmered hot, a boiling pot ready to spill its secrets. Suddenly, the figure drew back their hood, revealing a face both haunting and ethereal. Her eyes glimmered deep pools reflecting the ancient stories buried within these walls. Gasps echoed around her. She spoke, her voice low and melodic, yet dripping with urgency. You seek the truth, but are you prepared for what you may find? The spirits here thirst for connection, but they do not distinguish between the living and the dead. Nervous glances passed among the onlookers. She stepped forward, weaving through the crowd, casting her gaze like a net, ensnaring each heart with a magnetic pull. As she moved, the murals seemed to shift, their colors glowing with newfound vibrancy, the frescoes pulsating as if they had come alive. What madness was this? Was she a keeper of lost memories, or had the ancient tales twisted her into something more? A heartbeat of silence fell over the group, then a single voice broke through the stillness, one laced with both courage and fear. What is it you want from us? A man stepped forward, brow furrowed, eyes gleaming with determination. "Not what I desire," she whispered, "but what you must confront. Here lies your history, your desires, your betrayals. The past and present mingle dangerously in this haven of forgotten pleasures." With that, the ground beneath them shifted. Cracks splintered the cobblestones beneath their feet, revealing darkness beneath, an abyss ready to swallow. Screams erupted as some stumbled back in terror. The figure raised her arms, and the air hummed with crackling energy, a whirlwind of souls stirring beneath the surface of time. Visions exploded in their minds, hushed whispers of passion, screams of betrayal, hearts entwined and broken. Every emotion surged like a tidal wave. Would they dive into the depths or retreat back into the safety of the night? The man who had spoken before felt a surge of force pushing him forward, a compulsion to unravel the mystery. "What do we need to do?" he called out, voice trembling yet strong. "You must embrace the truth," she replied, locking eyes with him, and in that moment, it felt as if an unseen thread tugged at his very soul, leading him deeper into those unknown depths. "Only then can this place find rest, and in its revealing, perhaps you will discover your own." The atmosphere shifted, thick with uncertainty. Answers danced at the edge of revelation, their tantalizing melody echoing within. Each person felt the weight of the moment, the sudden burden of choice. What price would they pay for the truth? Drawn to the heart of the brothel, the figure beckoned. Shadows loomed at the doorway, daring them to cross. Would they turn away, or would they plunge into the secrets of their own hearts and the hidden tales of Pompeii? As they hesitated, the figure's gaze turned fierce. "Time is slipping. Decide now, for once you step inside, there's no turning back." With the echo of her last words hanging heavy in the air, the horizon of decision loomed larger. What lay within the known or the unknown? And what horrors or revelations would unfold as they stepped through the threshold? They stood at the precipice, hearts racing, racing against time itself. The crowd stirred, a collective breath caught in their throats as the figure's command rang in their ears. Uncertainty morphed into electric anticipation. Eyes darted among one another, weighing the gravity of their choices. The man who had spoken, Caleb, squared his shoulders, the warmth of determination igniting his spirit. "We must go in. We can't turn our backs on this." Around him, others caught fire to his courage, drawn by a magnetism they didn't fully understand. One by one, they stepped forward, the dark threshold looming like an open mouth ready to swallow their doubts whole. Whispers of misfortune taunted them, yet the allure of truth beckoned stronger. As they approached, the flickering lights cast eerie shadows that danced on the walls. The ancient murals, painted by weary hands long gone, loomed large. They seemed to pulse with life, inviting and threatening all at once. The air thickened further, a cocktail of incense and decay swirling around them. Caleb peered inside, heart hammering not with fear but excitement. "We're here for the truth," he called out, his voice echoing. And in that statement, a challenge hung in the air. Were they truly prepared for everything that lay ahead? With a slight nod, the figure stepped through the doorway, her presence commanding silent reverence. The group followed, crossing the threshold into an embrace that felt more like a descent than an entry. The moment their feet hit the wooden floor, hushed whispers surrounded them, soft and rippling, running along the edges of their consciousness like shadows. The room they entered was vast, filled with luminescent phosphorescence clinging to damp stone walls. Scenes of passion and despair sprawled across the surfaces, moments frozen in time, eternally caught between ecstasy and agony. Every heartbeat felt synchronized with the pulse of the brothel's secrets, as if they were sharing their first breath together. Caleb's attention was drawn to a large mural against the far wall. Closer inspection revealed extraordinary details: a pair of lovers intertwined, their faces illuminated by an unfathomable light. As he gazed, an ancient sorrow washed over him, a recognition that churned inside, unease blooming into compassion. Were these romantic souls still trapped in their dance of desire? Suddenly, the figure demanded their attention once more. "Remember, each of you carries a piece of this place," she intoned. "In every hesitation, every decision, you will confront the echoes of your own stories. The spirits will respond to your emotions: anger, love, betrayal. One woman boldly stepped forward, shaking yet resolute. Are you saying our deepest pains will guide us? Her voice rang out, tinged with disbelief. Indeed, the figure replied, but be warned, spirit responses aren't gentle. They can ignite flames you buried deep inside, review wounds you thought healed. The truth is not simply a revelation, it is a reckoning. As shockwaves rippled through the crowd, Caleb felt the force of it all pushing against him, his own past surfacing like an unleashed torrent. Memories of betrayal and regret clawed at the edges of his mind, raw and visceral. Would he confront his truths, or would he drown in this storm of revelations? The atmosphere instantly thickened, shadows warping under a sudden blast of cold air, causing goosebumps to ripple across their skin. Then, just as quickly, a dark laugh echoed through the chamber, sinister and playful, resonating off the stone walls. We are awake. A voice cried, sweet yet crass, filling the room, making it tremble. What have you come to find? The crowd froze, hearts pounding, bodies tense. The air crackled with energy, anticipation reaching an unbearable climax. With an instinctual recoil, Caleb grasped the figure's arm. What's happening? They are roused. She yelled over the cacophony of voices, fear glimmering in her eyes. Are you ready to face all that lies within? As the questions loomed like an impending storm, Caleb felt the weight of the moment saturate him. Would he embrace the chaos, unearth buried demons, or backtrack into the oblivion of ignorance? And just as the answer swayed on the tip of his tongue, the ground beneath them began to tremble once more, the walls closing in, daring them to choose their fate. Would they uncover the depths of their desires, or would they be swallowed whole in the shadows of their own making? The choice awaited them, charged with danger and destiny. A heavy silence enveloped the room, thick enough to choke on as the laughter faded away. Shadows pulsated in the corners, twisted shapes that seemed to whisper threats and promises, a chaotic dance of darkness. Caleb's grip tightened around the figure's arm. He could feel eyes watching them, countless unknown souls practically breathing down their necks. Stand firm, she commanded, her voice slicing through the mingled tension. It was a rallying cry, igniting something deep inside Caleb. He released her arm, steeling himself. The thrill of danger was intoxicating, an unexpected fire igniting his fears and hopes alike. But before anyone could respond, the walls quaked violently, a tremor that shook the very foundation of their reality. They stumbled, panic dancing in their eyes as ancient stones shivered with the force of an awakening. A gust of cold air swirled wildly around them, carrying faint whispers that seemed to summon their darkest regrets and nightmares. Look, shouted a man from the back, pointing towards the grand mural. The lovers now appeared animated, their eyes glistening with life. Their expressions twisted from ecstasy to anguish, mirroring the turmoil within the crowd. Do you see? The figure pressed, her voice rising above the chaos. What your spirits are willing to reveal is often what you suppress the most. An echo of shared memories surged through the group, like a wave crashing against rock. Caleb's heart raced. His failures, every wrong turn, every promise broken, surged forth. Faces flashed in his mind, those he hurt, those he abandoned. They swirled around him like ghosts desperate for acknowledgement. A woman near him cried out, her voice trembling. I can't do this. I want tea. She stumbled back, trying to escape, only to find the door had vanished. Facing the truth is all you can do, the figure said with warmth, yet an edge of steel in her tone. You must remember that the past shapes you, but it does not have to define you. The onlookers crowded closer, the air humming with despair and revelation. Caleb's mind raced. Did he want to be defined by his past or break free? He exhaled, summoning resolve. I will confront it, he proclaimed, his voice cracking but steady, but just as confident declarations filled the space, another laugh erupted. It was deeper, more menacing, reverberating through their bones. Words mean little here. The voice dripped with mockery, echoing against the stone walls. It twisted the air into something sinister. Now, the air became charged with energy, static and electric charged like an impending thunderstorm. The lights flickered wildly, illuminating the room in flashes that revealed a nightmarish landscape of eternal strife. The lovers twisted and contorted in their eternal embrace, the joy and pain melted into one, roiling in a void of hunger and sorrow. Caleb looked around, fear painted on each face, dread creeping into chests, paralyzing muscles. He could see that each person stood at a fork in their fate. Would they flee into the darkness of oblivion, or would they unwittingly step into the light of their own truth? Then, a chilling scream cut through the air. A woman lost her footing, her body convulsing as if she were possessed, eyes rolling back in terror. "Help me!" she cried, an echo of all their torments spilling out. In that moment, the ground beneath their feet split open, a crack widening, darkness yawning. Would they all be consumed by it, or would they rise from the ashes of their pasts? Caleb took a step forward, ready to face the terrifying truth. A breath caught in his throat as the portal opened wider, shadows beckoning him into unknown depths. What lay beyond the darkness, waiting to be unearthed? And as Caleb stared into the void, a single thought burned in his mind: the real test was just beginning. The shadows writhed and slithered, pulling him closer to the abyss. Caleb felt the heat rising from the gaping crack, a sinister allure that tugged at both his curiosity and his fear. Troubling flashes of memory ignited in his mind, each failure, each loss. The screams around him faded into the background, drowned in the pulse of his racing heart. The very ground beneath him felt like it was alive, cradling him while threatening to swallow him whole. "Caleb!" The figure's voice pierced through the din, cutting through his thoughts like a knife. "You must decide. Step back, or step forward." The world tilted as he teetered on the edge of sanity. Every nerve screamed for him to retreat, to seek safety in the known. Yet something inside him burned with an unquenchable desire to confront the darkness, to purge the weight of guilt that threatened to suffocate him. Maybe, just maybe, the truth was worth the risk. "I want to run," he shouted defiantly, grounding himself against the chaos. His voice echoed in the cavern, bouncing off walls that seemed to question his resolve. The faces around him flickered like candlelight: fear, confusion, determination. They watched, frozen between action and inaction, entangled in their own spirals of past and present. Then a figure lunged forward, a young man, his face twisted in raw panic. "I can't let this happen." He shoved into Caleb, trying to pull him away from the brink. But Caleb was not a child to be held back anymore. He had come seeking answers, and answers demanded courage. In that split second, he pushed past the instigator, plunging forward into the void. A coldness engulfed him, stinging against his skin as he fell. He gasped, swallowed by darkness. Shapes darted around him, whispering the secrets of lost souls. Memories cascaded like a torrent, visions of every wound he had ever inflicted flooding back, sharp, painful, vivid. Caleb's chest tightened. He felt their anger, their sorrow wrapping around him like a vice. Shadows clawed at his conscience, offering faces, sorrow-filled eyes staring back, each of them demanding recognition and contrition. He felt the weight of their burden pressing down as he drifted further from the safety of the room he had known. "No!" he screamed, the sound echoing in the void. "I won't ignore this anymore." Suddenly, the world collapsed back into focus, colors flooding around him, a vivid tapestry of emotions. Caleb stood at a threshold, a swirling vortex of light and shadow. He was no longer alone, each soul he had wronged loomed beside him, forming a chorus of reclaiming. They whispered his name, urging him to feel, to acknowledge their suffering as perfectly as he had felt his own, and then the cruel laughter rose again, shattering the brief flicker of freedom. "You can't escape, Caleb. You're not the hero here." The voice of his own self-doubt echoed, curling around him like smoke. "Prove me wrong." It taunted, urging him to falter. Caleb swallowed hard, the lump in his throat blocking his voice as the edges of impending dread crept in. Would he give in to despair, or would he find a way to reshape this narrative? The path ahead remained uncertain, laden with danger. As he stepped deeper into the vortex, shadows twisted and contorted, shrieking in agony. He felt the intensity building, each moment a crucial turn. Could he truly face the weight of all he had done? Did he possess the strength to transform his darkness into light? Behind him, the void pulsed, awaiting his decision. And as a blinding flash enveloped him, a singular thought clawed its way to the forefront. This journey had only just begun, and something even darker lurked on the horizon, waiting for its moment to strike. Caleb staggered as the blinding light receded, and a surge of adrenaline shot through him. He was no longer falling, instead, he stood in a dimly lit chamber. The walls were stark, etched with strange symbols that pulsed faintly. The air was thick, charged with a lingering sense of dread, as if waiting for a terrible truth to emerge. Where am I? His voice shook, barely breaking the silence. The chamber was empty and foreboding, yet echoes of past torments lingered, pinching at his heart. Shadows danced around him, casting elongated shapes that seemed to mock his presence. "You've chosen to find the truth, Caleb," a whisper coiled around him like a serpent. It was a voice he recognized but wished he could forget. "But are you ready for what lies beneath?" A chill ran down his spine. Memories stirred, dragging him deeper into the pit of his own guilt. The very shadows seemed to congeal, making him stumble backward. Fear gripped him hard, he clutched his chest as if trying to hold together the fragments of his sanity. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed from the far corner, slicing through his panic. He turned sharply, heart racing. The darkness parted slightly, revealing a figure. A woman stood there, her features obscured but her eyes glimmered like shattered glass. "Caleb," she said, voice low and deliberate. "You must face them. You can't escape this. Not again." He recoiled, overwhelmed. Memories of her flooded in joyful moments twisted with unbearable pain. "No. Not you." Panic clawed at his throat, but the truth of her words struck like a hammer. "You think you have the power to change this?" she whispered, stepping closer. The shadows behind her folded, writhing in anticipation. "You are the architect of your own destruction. You must confront what you fear most." Her gaze pierced him, and in that moment, realization washed over him like a cold wave. He had always thought of shadows as separate from him, but perhaps they were a reflection of his own soul. "What do you want from me?" he shouted, his voice trembling as anger swelled inside. "To forgive yourself." Another voice chimed in, a deep rumble from the depths. Shapes began to emerge from the shadows, familiar, sorrowful faces. Each one worn and burdened, representing the choices that haunted him. Caleb's breath hitched as he recognized them, flashes of guilt igniting. "I can't," he gasped, recoiling from the chorus of lost hopes. "I can't face this." As if sensing his despair, the figures edged closer, their eyes locked onto his, urging intervention. "You must embrace the pain, Caleb. Transform it," the woman insisted, her voice resonating through the walls. "Only then can you begin healing." Caleb felt the floor shift beneath him, the swirling shadows throbbing in sync with his heartbeat. "But what if it destroys me?" In that moment of vulnerability, the shadows erupted in a cacophony of cries, swirling around him, a storm of anger, regret, and sorrow. The walls trembled, and the figures hungered for recognition. "Either you pay your debt or remain captive in this cycle," the woman urged, voice softening. "Choose, Caleb. Or live forever shackled by your own remorse." He was caught between the anguished faces pleading for acknowledgement and the oppressive weight of his fears. A storm of thoughts exploded in his mind. Could healing really come from confronting this pain? Was he prepared to face the depths of his own darkness? Caleb's heart thudded in his chest as clarity began to emerge. Perhaps in facing this moment, he could rewrite the narrative that had bound him for so long, but before he could gather the courage to speak, the chamber shuddered violently, and the walls began to crack. The very foundations of his fears threatened to collapse all around him. What awaited him, if he dared to step forward? Were the shadows truly allies, or did they hide deeper horrors yet to be unveiled? As the ground quaked, pulling him toward the abyss once more, Caleb realized this was merely the beginning of his reckoning. The chamber convulsed, and Caleb felt the floor tremble beneath his feet like the very heart of the world was alive and angry. It shattered his moment of clarity, dragging him back into chaos. The voices rose, filling the air with a haunting symphony of despair. He could scarcely think as the shadows danced closer, forming a sea of anguished faces, people he had wronged, loved, lost. Caleb! They cried in whispered wails, their spectral palms reaching out, desperate for connection. He staggered backward, hitting the cold stone wall. Panic surged within him. No! Get away! He shouted, his voice cracking from the weight of his suffocating fear. But the figures were relentless, drawing nearer. Each anguished face bore the marks of their shared past, the tears, the pain, the heartbreak. The woman remained, her presence steady, a lighthouse in the cacophony of chaos. You can't run from them. She screamed over the noise. You are bound to them. You must confront your sins. Caleb swallowed hard, feeling a lump in his throat. The words echoed, ringing true like a death knell in his mind. I'm not ready. The air thickened around him, a weight pressing down as if the walls were closing in, smothering him with the burden of memories he had long buried. The shadows twisted, morphing into vengeful forms, eyes glinting with accusation. Were these truly the faces of his past, or simply manifestations of his guilt? What if I can't? He gasped, his voice barely a whisper now. What if I'm too weak? Then you will be lost forever. The woman replied, her voice rising above the chaos, laced with urgency. Each word penetrated the fog of despair surrounding him, sparking a flicker of defiance in his heart. Maybe she was right. Maybe facing his demons was the only way out. But with every second he hesitated, the ground beneath him fractured, fissures snaking outward like a web of treachery. You must go deeper. Dive into the darkness, or it will consume you whole. The chamber screamed an affirmation, shadows thundering with approval. Caleb's heart raced, the adrenaline flooding his veins as he fought between flight and fight. Could he really face what he had hidden? Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, swallowing him whole. Everything spun wildly as visions flooded his mind, everything he had tried to forget. There, amidst the chaos, he saw it, the moment of betrayal, the pain inflicted, the lives forever altered. His own actions carved deep into the flesh of innocence, and the shadows reflected that truth honestly. I'm sorry, he cried out, the weight of his regret screaming through him, every syllable a dagger carving into his heart. But the compassion of the lost faces flickered, replaced by sorrowful looks that echoed a deeper truth. Apologies were not enough. The chamber quaked violently once more, threatening to collapse in on itself. Shadows churned, swirling closer, transforming the walls into a pulsating abyss. Caleb could feel their desperation. It was a living, breathing monster, hungry for his recognition, his acceptance. Embrace it. The woman shouted, eyes wide with a mix of fear and fierce hope. Or lose yourself to the void. Embrace. The word hung in the air, heavy with consequence. Could he really pass through this storm of regrets and morbid fears and find a way to reclaim himself? With a deep breath, deep enough to call on every ounce of courage he could muster, Caleb felt something shift within. Maybe, just maybe, he could return to the light if he accepted the darkness within. As the shadows roared, pulling him along the edge of oblivion, Caleb realized, the choice was his alone. And on the precipice of that choice, he braced for impact, ready to confront his darkest hour. Would he discover freedom or be crushed by the weight of eternal remorse? The moment Caleb surrendered to the darkness, it wrapped around him like icy tendrils, sharp and unforgiving. He was no longer merely in a chamber, he had become part of an unending nightmare, hovering between memory and despair. With every flicker of the shadows, he was thrust into scenes from his past, each more haunting than the last. That he stumbled through a sorrowful landscape, pieces of his life scattered like shards of broken glass. Here was the fateful night, the ominous glow of streetlights illuminating his betrayal. Faces turned away, lips pressed together in silence, voices drowned out by the roaring wind of his regret. "Face it, Caleb." The woman's voice broke through, a beacon amid the swirling shadows. "You have to relive it. See what you've done." But each memory felt heavier than the last. He relived the moment his hands acted before his heart could protest, the phantom pain of the choices that had led him here. Just then, he locked eyes with a familiar figure, the girl he had betrayed. She looked at him, eyes wide and full of hurt, her presence undeniable, a haunting reminder of what had been lost. "Why?" Her whisper cut through the air, sharp and piercing. "Why didn't you save me?" Caleb's heart tightened. I was scared. I didn't think. Your fear cost me everything." She glided closer, her form emerging from the shadows, the grief in her voice echoing through him. "You might escape this place, Caleb, but you cannot escape the truth." The darkness pulsed angrily around him, the faces of the lost growing restless, a tide of memory threatening to engulf him. They pressed forward, their features morphing into grotesque reflections of his guilt, each one carrying a piece of the burden he wished to ignore. "Stop!" he bellowed, desperation clawing at him. "I can't bear it. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." "Then make it right," the woman urged, her voice like a guiding star in a midnight sky. "This is your chance. Accept your truth." His breath quickened, heart pounding like a war drum. Could he really take the plunge? The air crackled with an electric tension, his awareness blurring between defiance and acceptance. With a fistful of courage, he stepped forward, the shadows swirling, reaching, eager for his recognition. "I was wrong," he shouted, the truth spilling from his lips. "I was wrong, and I've been running from it. I'm sorry for what I did." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, some screamed, some wept, but most fell silent, awaiting his next breath. He pressed on, swallowing the terror clawing at his throat. "I never wanted to hurt anyone. I thought turning away would protect me." The pain in the air shifted, morphing into something different, a glimmer of hope, a flicker of light. The once angered faces softened, shadows dimming around him as they absorbed his admission. "Face it, Caleb, you cannot just apologize. You must change," the woman urged, her eyes locked onto his, filled with fierce determination. He felt the weight of those words settle around him like a cloak. A promise. A choice. He had been drowning in guilt, but now he stood at the threshold of redemption. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the chamber, the very walls trembling with a newfound fever. The space quaked, threatening to pull him back into the abyss unless he acted swiftly. "What must I do?" he asked, voice cracking with urgency. "Embrace your truth." She screamed, and Caleb knew in that moment, the shadows would not disappear, but perhaps he could bring light to them. He had to accept the mistakes, the pain, and find a path forward. With the ground shifting violently beneath him, Caleb plunged into the chaos, heart racing. Was this the moment to reclaim his soul, or was he diving deeper into his own oblivion? As shadows closed in, narrowing the space around him, he felt the raw bite of fear mixed with the palpable thread of hope. He took a deep breath, pushing against the tidal wave of despair that threatened to consume him whole. Whatever awaited him in the darkness, he was ready to face it. What awaited him beyond that dark, inevitable plunge? Caleb sank into the dark, his heart thundering in his chest. The shadows twisted around him like tendrils reaching for his very essence. Instinctively, he closed his eyes, hoping the darkness would not engulf him. When he reopened them, he was no longer alone. A vivid but ghostly scene unfolded before him, crumbling walls adorned with ancient frescoes, the unmistakable scent of ash heavy in the air. He stood on a street that felt eerily familiar yet foreign, the silence deafening. Against the backdrop of ruins, faces flickered, momentary specters shrouded in lost hopes and unfulfilled dreams. "What is this place?" he whispered, unease creeping into his voice. "Welcome to the heart of Pompeii, a voice drawled, sultry and hypnotic. Caleb turned slowly, caught off guard by the presence beside him, a woman draped in vibrant fabric, an aura of ancient mystery surrounding her. "Who are you?" Caleb stammered, meeting her gaze. Her eyes sparkled with flame and sorrow all at once, as if she held centuries of wisdom. "They used to call me Lyra," she said, stepping closer with a fluid grace. "In this space between the living and the lost, I collect stories not just of the dead, but of the choices that buried them." He could feel the weight of her words. "What do you want from me?" "I need you to see," she insisted, pointing down the alleyway lined with decaying shops. "Every corner holds a secret, every shadow a memory woven into the fabric of your soul. It's time to unearth your truth, Caleb." Caleb hesitated but felt an insistent pull toward the alley. Trepidation nudged at his insides as he walked beside Lyra, her presence both comforting and eerily intense. They passed storefronts, each one holding echoes of laughter, pain, and lost ecstasy. He recognized the faces, people from his life long gone, each moment pulsating with the energy of what once was. This is my life." Caleb gasped as images churned before him. He saw friends turning their backs, lovers weeping, the fallout of decisions he never owned. "Every choice leads to a path," Lyra affirmed, weaving between dreams both beautiful and haunting. "You have yet to confront the ramifications of your fear. It haunts you, Caleb. But there's a truth buried within that you have yet to embrace." He could feel the shadows shimmering with a restless energy, names flickering before him like an old film reel. Each name left a bitter taste in his mouth, memories filled with regret and despair. The deeper they ventured, the heavier his heart felt. "What do I gain from this? Why force me to remember?" "Because only through acceptance can you be free," she replied gently. A glimmer manifested, illuminating the path before them. "And once you do, redemption beckons." Caleb's resolve wavered, doubt gnawing at him. But as they approached the broken entryway of what seemed like a tavern, an overpowering stench of fear seeped into the air. Ghostly whispers hissed at the edges of his mind, echoing the questions he had stifled for too long. What awaited him behind that door? Was it mercy or madness? Would he find the answers he desperately sought, or would it tear him apart even further? "Cross the threshold, Caleb," Lyra urged softly, her tone a mix of coaxing and firm. The shadows writhed as if they too were daring him to move. With a deep breath, he clenched his fists, feeling the warmth of hope flicker within. What lay in that cavernous room would either shatter him or set him free. As he pushed open the door, darkness swirled around him, threatening to pull him under once more. Would the truth finally reveal itself, or was he stepping into yet another dimension of despair? As Caleb stepped through the threshold, darkness enveloped him, swirling like a tempest. The musty air clung to his skin, heavy with a mixture of ancient fear and unsung hopes. He blinked, letting his eyes adjust to the dimness. Before him lay a vast chamber, shapes twisting and shifting in the shadows. The faint glow of phosphorescence flickered against rough stone walls, illuminating faces once familiar yet now warped by time. All around him echoed the sounds of whispered regrets, the pain of choices not made, the weight of hundreds of broken promises. Caleb's heart raced as figures emerged from the darkness, each a reflection of his past, his buried guilt. The faces of loved ones and lost friends stared back at him, etched in sorrow and longing. "Caleb," came a voice from the shadows, a lithe form stepping forward, her eyes bright but filled with anguish. It was Clara, the girl from his past whom he had betrayed. "Why did you leave me?" His knees buckled under the weight of her gaze. "I was scared," he breathed. "I thought running would protect you." But even as he spoke, he could feel the truth resonating, a bitter melody of cowardice that hummed through the air. "Protection?" Clara echoed, and in her voice, Caleb felt the chilling snap of unresolved pain. "Your fear cost me everything. I needed you." The darkness around him shifted menacingly. The shadows grew restless, flickering like candle flames in a raging storm. A chorus of voices joined Clara's, their words intertwining into a cacophony of anguish that clawed at Caleb's chest. "Face us!" they cried. "Accept what you've left behind." "No!" he shouted, pain lancing through him as the shadows drew nearer, pulling him to the precipice of despair. "I can't bear this." "Then why did you come?" Lyra's voice emerged from the chaos, steady and unwavering. She stood behind him, a beacon of piercing determination. "You must confront them. Only then can you find peace." Caleb felt his heart thud in response, caught between despair and a flicker of hope. Was it possible to face all he had suppressed? Was forgiveness even an option in the tangled web of these memories? With a shuddering breath, he forced himself to look at Clara again. Her features glistened with sadness, yet her eyes held a mixed invitation and urging for connection and understanding beneath her pain. "I am so sorry for what I did," he cried, anguish spilling from him as though it had been bottled at the neck for an eternity. "I never meant for you to suffer," but the words felt flat, abandoned as soon as they were spoken. More shadows swirled around, pulling together to form vignettes of despair, snippets of laughter tangled with cries of betrayal. A whirlpool of self-imposed isolation threatened to pull him in deeper. "Enough!" Clara yelled, her voice commanding, resonant like a bell. "You need to stop running. You can change the narrative." But every step toward her felt heavy, every moment of truth screaming through his veins like fire. "What if I can't?" he whispered, his chest tightening. "Then you lose yourself, Caleb." "The choice is yours," came the soft response of Lyra, but the urgency carried an underpinning of fear. "What awaits you lies between acceptance and despair." He stood on the razor's edge, amidst tangled memories and sorrowful faces, yet within him, the first sparks of determination ignited. "I don't want to be haunted anymore," Caleb shouted, a declaration that shattered the oppressive silence. "I want to forgive myself, I want to be free." And in that moment, a hush fell. The shadows paused, as if waiting for him to take a leap of faith. Gripping the edges of his self-control, he reached out toward Clara. "I see your pain. I acknowledge it. I cannot change the past, but I can endure this and make right, somehow." Caleb stepped forward, towards the light that shimmered around Clara's silhouette. The others shifted, their expressions softening as anticipation rippled through them. With each word, he felt part of his guilt give way, releasing roots he thought would forever bind him. "I am sorry for everything," he said, his voice full of raw authenticity and love. "Please forgive me." As his plea filled the air, Clara's face transformed, the sorrow momentarily melting away. "Acceptance isn't easy, but freedom is possible," she whispered before stepping back, dissolving into the warmth of light. At that moment, the shadows stilled, a respectful silence surrounding Caleb. They began to ripple, each face glowing with compassion, understanding that perhaps forgiveness does not mean forgetting or letting go but accepting that they too are part of his journey. With newfound clarity, Caleb took a deep breath, lighting the path forward. This was not an end but a new beginning. Determination flooded his veins, and as he walked through the fading darkness, threads of his past unraveled behind him, weaving into the fabric of his salvation. Caleb stepped back into the world, emerging from the shadows once more, reborn with the truth resting heavy in his heart. He carried the lessons learned, each encounter a piece of redemption. He turned toward the horizon, the warm light of dawn kissing the sky, ready to embrace whatever came next, but he couldn't do this alone. He knew it was crucial to share this experience, to help others as he had helped himself. "Remember this," he called out. "You need to confront your truth if you want to be free. Don't let your past bind you." Caleb looked back one last time, letting the light drown the shadows for good. With a final breath of hope, he walked onward into his new life, a journey of acceptance blossoming ahead. Now, my friends, bring your stories to light. You need to subscribe now. Don't let another moment slip away. Hit that button to join our community as we explore more journeys and bring hope into the world. Smash that like button now, show your support and help spread these crucial messages. Flood the comments section with your reflections, your own truths, and theories about what this means. And share this journey. Don't wait even one more second. Send this video to at least 5 friends who need to hear this truth. Together, let us unravel the chains of our pasts.